March 2009. Harley Davidson stock had collapsed 90% in 18 months. Dealerships were closing across America. The company announced 1,100 layoffs, roughly a quarter of its workforce. America's most iconic motorcycle brand was weeks away from bankruptcy. This didn't just almost kill Harley. It permanently changed what you're buying today. To understand how we got here, we need to go back. Not to some romantic origin story, but to 10 critical decisions that turned an innovation leader into a company charging luxury prices for outdated machines. Before we go further, Harley also did a few things brilliantly: brand building, community, touring comfort. But these decisions shaped the downsides riders still deal with right now. So here's the question: how did a company that once led motorcycle innovation end up in this position? Mistake 1: the AMF disaster, selling out to a bowling company. In 1969, the Harley Davidson founders decided to sell the company. The buyer was AMF, American Machine and Foundry, a company known for making bowling equipment. AMF did not buy Harley because they loved motorcycles. They bought it because they saw profit potential. Their strategy was simple: flood the market with bikes. Production doubled almost overnight. In 1969, Harley built around 15,000 motorcycles. By 1975, that number reached 75,000. The problem was not the quantity, it was what happened to quality. Bikes started leaking oil on showroom floors. New motorcycles arrived at dealers with loose bolts, misaligned parts, and electrical problems. The joke became that you needed to buy 2 Harleys, one to ride while the other was in the shop. Worker morale collapsed. Craftsmen who had spent decades building motorcycles watched their work get rushed. The assembly line moved faster. Quality control got cut. Harley Davidson's reputation for reliability, already shaky compared to Japanese bikes, was destroyed. Here's the thing people forget: AMF actually saved Harley from immediate financial death in 1969. The founders were struggling. AMF provided capital and infrastructure. But in saving the company short-term, they poisoned it long-term. The damage from the AMF era created a stereotype that still exists today. When someone says Harleys leak, they are often thinking of bikes built between 1969 and 1981. That is half a century ago, but the reputation stuck. In 1981, a group of Harley executives bought the company back from AMF. The buyback became a legendary moment in motorcycle history. American workers saving an American icon. And they did save it. But the trust was already gone. Riders who had bought AMF-era Harleys and spent thousands on repairs did not forget. Mechanics who had seen sloppy assembly did not forget. An entire generation of younger riders learned one lesson: if you want a bike that works, buy Japanese. Harley survived AMF, but the damage taught the company the wrong lesson: that marketing and mythology could overcome engineering problems. That you could sell the idea of a Harley even if the actual motorcycle was not competitive. That belief would define every mistake that followed. Mistake 2: ignoring the Japanese invasion. While Harley was drowning in AMF's quality crisis, something else was happening. Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki were quietly taking over the American motorcycle market. It started in the 1960s. Japanese manufacturers entered the United States with small, affordable, reliable bikes. Honda's "You meet the nicest people on a Honda" campaign made motorcycling accessible to families. By the early 1970s, Japanese bikes dominated. Harley's response was not to build better motorcycles, it was to run to Washington. In 1983, Harley convinced the Reagan administration to impose a 45% tariff on Japanese motorcycles over 700 cubic centimeters. The argument was that Japanese manufacturers were dumping bikes below cost to destroy American competition. The tariff gave Harley breathing room. Japanese bikes got more expensive overnight. Harley had time to fix its problems and modernize its lineup. Here is what Harley chose to do with that time. Not much. Instead of radical innovation, they made incremental improvements. Instead of developing new engine technology, they refined old designs. Instead of building bikes that could compete on performance and reliability, they doubled down on heritage and tradition. Meanwhile, the Japanese manufacturers did not sit still. They studied the American cruiser market. They figured out what riders actually wanted: bikes that looked like Harleys, but started reliably, did not leak, and cost less. By the time the tariff lifted in 1987, a year early because Harley claimed they no longer needed protection, the damage was done. An entire generation of riders had learned that Japanese bikes were simply better machines. Harley claimed victory. They had survived the invasion, but they had lost something more important than market share. They had lost the performance war. They learned that lobbying was easier than innovation. When faced with competition, don't out-engineer them. Out-lobby them, out-market them. It worked financially. Harley's stock soared through the 1990s, but the product itself was falling further behind with every year. Mistake 3. The Evolution engine debacle. In 1984, Harley introduced the Evolution engine, nicknamed Evo. This was supposed to be the reliability solution that would finally put the AMF disaster behind them. In one sense, it worked. The Evo was significantly more reliable than the shovelhead engine it replaced. It did not leak as much. It did not break down as often. For Harley, it was a massive improvement. But here's the problem. The Evo succeeded too well. The engine was reliable enough to satisfy existing Harley customers. It kept bikes running long enough that owners stopped complaining. Dealerships could finally sell new motorcycles without immediate warranty claims. So Harley stopped innovating. The Evo was air-cooled when the rest of the industry was moving to liquid cooling. It used push rods when competitors were using overhead cams. It made less power, ran hotter, and vibrated more than modern designs. But it looked traditional. It sounded right. And most importantly, it was cheaper to manufacture than a truly modern engine would have been. Harley charged premium prices for 1960s technology. A 1984 Harley with an Evo engine cost more than a Honda or Yamaha with superior engineering. You were paying extra for the bar and shield logo and the potato exhaust note. The vibration was so intense, it literally shook bolts loose. Riders learned to check fasteners regularly. The Harley leak stereotype persisted because even the improved Evo engines still seeped oil from gaskets that could not handle the constant shaking. In traffic, the air-cooled engine would overheat. Riders learned to keep moving or shut the bike off at long red lights. This was not a quirk. It was a design limitation that other manufacturers had solved decades earlier with liquid cooling. Harley could have developed a modern engine. They had the resources. They had the engineering talent. But the Evo was good enough to keep existing customers happy, and that removed the urgency to innovate. It took until 1999, 15 years later, for Harley to introduce the Twin Cam 88, a genuinely improved engine design. Even then, it was still air-cooled, it still vibrated heavily, and it still lagged behind the technology available on Japanese and European bikes. The Evo engine locked Harley into a pattern that would define the next 3 decades. Incremental improvements to outdated architecture sold at premium prices to customers who valued tradition over performance. That decision, to let good enough become the standard, meant Harley would never catch up technologically. They were building motorcycles with 1980s technology into the 2000s and motorcycles with 1990s technology into the 2010s, always a generation behind. And riders paid the price, not just in money, but in the performance and reliability they could have had. Mistake 4. The Buell experiment, wasting $100 million. In 1993, Harley Davidson bought 49% of a small motorcycle company called Buell. By 2003, they owned it completely. Eric Buell was a former Harley engineer who had left to build something different. He wanted American sport bikes that could compete with Japanese manufacturers. His bikes were innovative. They used Harley engines but were wrapped in lightweight frames with modern suspension and brakes. The Buell Blast was a beginner bike that actually worked for new riders. The Buell Lightning was a naked sport bike that handled well and looked aggressive. The Buell 1125R, introduced in 2008, was genuinely competitive with Japanese sport bikes. Harley had something valuable, an entire brand that could attract younger riders, sport bike enthusiasts, and people who would never consider a traditional cruiser. So, what did they do with it? They starved it. Buell got minimal marketing budget. Harley dealers were told to stock Buells, but many refused or hid them in back corners. The bikes that did sell were often treated as unwanted stepchildren by service departments trained only on Harley cruisers. Eric Buell wanted to develop his own engines. Harley forced him to use modified Sportster motors, air-cooled pushrod engines that were outdated even by cruiser standards, let alone sport bike requirements. The 1125R finally got a modern engine, but only after years of fighting. When Buells did sell, Harley management saw it as a problem. Internal documents suggested that Buell sales were cannibalizing Harley sales. That meant people were choosing better motorcycles over traditional Harleys, and that threatened the core brand identity. In 2009, during the financial crisis, Harley killed Buell entirely. They shut down production, terminated dealer agreements, and effectively destroyed the brand overnight. Over $100 million invested, hundreds of jobs lost, a competitive product line eliminated. The official reason was financial restructuring during the recession. The real reason was simpler. Buell represented a future Harley was not willing to become. Eric Buell went on to start a new company building electric motorcycles. Harley kept building the same cruisers. That decision, to kill innovation rather than embrace it, told the world exactly what Harley valued. Heritage over progress, mythology over engineering, the past over the future. Mistake 5. The demographic death spiral. Here is a number that should terrify Harley Davidson. The average age of a Harley buyer is over 50 years old. In some recent years, it has pushed past 55. That is not a coincidence. It is the result of decades of decisions that alienated younger riders while clinging to an aging customer base. Baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964, became Harley's core demographic in the 1980s and the 1990s. They had disposable income. They romanticized the outlaw biker image. They bought expensive touring bikes and spent weekends riding to rallies. Harley built its entire business model around these customers: big, heavy, expensive cruisers. Chrome accessories. Dealer networks focused on selling lifestyle, not just motorcycles. The problem was obvious to anyone paying attention. Baby boomers were aging out of riding. Every year, more of them stopped riding because of age, health, or simply losing interest. And Harley was not replacing them with younger customers. Young riders in the 2000s and the 20-teens wanted different things: lighter bikes, better performance, lower prices. Modern technology like fuel injection, anti-lock brakes, and smartphone connectivity features Japanese manufacturers offered as standard. Harley's response was to build more expensive cruisers for the same aging customers. They did try a few half-hearted attempts at youth appeal. The Street 500 and Street 750, introduced in 2014, were supposed to be affordable entry-level bikes, but they were still overpriced compared to Japanese competitors, underpowered, and built in India, which undermined Harley's American icon marketing. The Livewire electric motorcycle, launched in 2019, was Harley's attempt to attract tech-savvy younger riders. It cost nearly $30,000 for 140 miles of range. Almost nobody bought it. The real issue was not the products, it was the brand image itself. Harley meant old guy on a weekend. It meant midlife crisis. It meant your dad, not you. Indian Motorcycle, Harley's main American competitor, figured this out. They built modern bikes that appealed to younger riders while still honoring cruiser tradition. Their Scout model became hugely popular with riders in their 30s and their 40s, the demographic Harley desperately needed. Harley kept doubling down on their aging base: higher prices, more touring features, bigger, heavier bikes. Each decision made sense for existing customers, but pushed potential new customers further away. The math was brutal. Every year, Harley lost customers to age. Every year, they failed to attract enough new riders to replace them. The customer base shrank, sales volume dropped, and the company found itself trapped in a death spiral of its own making, selling to a disappearing demographic while actively repelling the future. Mistake 6, the dealer network scam. The way Harley Davidson sells motorcycles is designed to extract maximum profit from every transaction, and riders pay for it. Harley Davidson deliberately limits production to create artificial scarcity. Fewer bikes available means dealers can charge more. A bike with a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $20,000 might actually cost you $25,000 after dealer markup. Accessories, they insist, are mandatory, and fees that appear out of nowhere. Harley Financial Services made it worse. They offered financing to almost anyone, subprime lending for motorcycles, long-term loans that stretched 7 years or more, with interest rates that would make a credit card company blush. The pitch was seductive. You can afford your dream bike with low monthly payments. The reality was financial disaster for thousands of buyers. A $25,000 motorcycle financed over 7 years at high interest could end up costing $35,000 or more. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the scheme collapsed. Loan defaults skyrocketed. Harley Financial Services, which had been a profit center, nearly brought down the entire company. Harley Davidson had to write off hundreds of millions of dollars in bad loans. But here is the thing. Dealers and Harley Davidson made their money up front. The buyer was stuck with the debt. Even after 2008, even after the crisis exposed how predatory the system was, the dealer markup game continued. Compare this to how metric brands operate. You walk into a Honda or Yamaha dealer, the price on the tag is close to what you actually pay. Financing terms are reasonable. There is no artificial scarcity driving up costs. Why does a Harley cost more to finance than a car that lasts 3 times longer? Because the entire dealer network is built around maximizing profit per transaction, not building long-term customer relationships. Today, as Harley Davidson sales collapse, dealers are struggling. Some have closed. Others have diversified into other brands. But the ones that remain still play the same markup game, still push expensive financing, still treat customers like marks instead of riders. You are not paying only for the motorcycle. You are paying for a business model designed to squeeze every possible dollar out of your desire to own a Harley. Mistake 7. The tariff boomerang. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. For most companies, this meant higher material costs. For Harley Davidson, it meant something else, a public relations disaster. Harley Davidson announced they would move some production overseas to avoid the tariffs. The reaction was immediate and brutal. President Trump publicly attacked Harley on Twitter, calling them out for abandoning American manufacturing. The irony was thick. This was the same company that had begged for tariff protection in the 1980s. It was the same company that built its entire brand identity around being an American icon. Now they were fleeing American manufacturing to protect profit margins. The real reason was not patriotism or politics, it was math. Labor costs in the United States had become too high for Harley Davidson's business model. They needed cheaper manufacturing to maintain the profit margins Wall Street demanded. Here's what made it worse. Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki all built motorcycles profitably in American factories. They had figured out how to manufacture efficiently in the United States while paying competitive wages. Harley Davidson could not, or would not, match that. The company tried to frame the decision as strategic, necessary, forward-thinking. But the damage was done. Harley Davidson lost both its patriotic brand image and its manufacturing efficiency advantage. It became exactly what it had accused the Japanese of being in the 1980s, a company that would manufacture anywhere to maximize profit, regardless of what that meant for American workers. Mistake 8. The inventory crisis. Through the decade from 2010 to 2019, Harley made a classic corporate mistake. They built motorcycles nobody wanted to buy. The problem started with production targets. Wall Street analysts wanted growth, and Harley management promised growth. So they ramped up production, building more bikes every year regardless of actual demand. Dealer lots filled up with unsold inventory. New motorcycles sat for months, sometimes for more than a year. Dust collected on chrome. Tires developed flat spots from sitting in one position too long. For a premium brand, this was poison. Luxury products do not sit unsold. Rolex does not flood jewelry stores with watches nobody wants. But Harley kept shipping bikes to dealers who could not move them. Dealers had two choices: discount heavily or go bankrupt. Many chose discounts. Brand new Harleys started selling for thousands of dollars below MSRP. The premium image collapsed when customers realized they could negotiate massive price cuts just by waiting. Some dealers chose bankruptcy instead. Between 2008 and 2020, hundreds of Harley dealerships closed permanently. The survivors were stuck with inventory they had already paid for, watching its value evaporate. Harley's response made it worse. They would buy back unsold inventory from struggling dealers at a loss. Then, they had to write down the value of those motorcycles and either scrap them or sell them as certified pre-owned bikes that competed with their own new inventory. The cycle became self-reinforcing. Overproduction led to discounts. Discounts led to brand devaluation. Brand devaluation led to lower sales. Lower sales led to more overproduction as the company tried to maintain revenue targets. By 2020, Harley finally cut production dramatically. But the damage was already done. An entire generation of riders had learned that Harley's premium pricing was negotiable, that new bikes lost value the moment they left the showroom, and that waiting always got you a better deal. The inventory crisis revealed something fundamental. Harley had lost touch with actual market demand. They were building the motorcycles they wanted to build, not the ones riders wanted to buy. Mistake 9. The Rewire Strategic Plan Failure. In 2020, the new Chief Executive Officer, Jochen Zeitz, announced the Hardwire Strategic Plan. It was supposed to save Harley Davidson by refocusing the company on what worked. The promise sounded good: focus on profitable markets, premium products, and core customers. Cut the fat. Stop trying to be everything to everyone. Double down on what made Harley special. The reality was simpler: give up. Hardwire meant killing nearly all international expansion. Harley Davidson pulled out of dozens of countries, abandoned growth markets in Asia and South America, and retreated to focus almost entirely on the United States and a few European markets. The problem with that strategy is the United States motorcycle market was shrinking. Motorcycle sales had been declining for years. Fewer young people were getting licenses. Urban areas were hostile to motorcycles. The customer base was literally dying of old age. Harley Davidson's response to a shrinking market was to make their addressable market even smaller. They discontinued dozens of models. The Street Line, their attempt at affordable bikes, was killed. Sportster production was cut. They narrowed their lineup to focus on expensive touring bikes and cruisers for their aging core demographic. Hardwire also meant cutting costs everywhere. Research and development budgets shrank. Marketing spending dropped. The company laid off hundreds of employees, including experienced engineers and designers. Compare this to Indian Motorcycle's strategy during the same period. Indian expanded internationally. They developed new models for younger riders. They invested in technology and modern features. They grew market share while Harley Davidson retreated. The Hardwire plan did accomplish one thing. It improved profit margins. By selling fewer bikes at higher prices to a smaller customer base, Harley Davidson could show Wall Street better profits per unit sold. But revenue kept falling. Unit sales kept dropping. Market share kept shrinking. Harley Davidson was literally shrinking itself toward irrelevance, making more money per motorcycle while selling fewer motorcycles every year. The plan revealed what Harley Davidson had become: a company managing decline rather than fighting for growth. They had given up on attracting new riders, given up on international markets, given up on innovation. Instead, they focused on extracting maximum profit from their remaining loyal customers until those customers aged out of riding entirely. Hardwire was not a strategic plan. It was a surrender dressed up in corporate language. Mistake 10, the pandemic bubble burst. 2020 and 2021 created a temporary miracle for the motorcycle industry. Lockdowns meant people could not travel, could not go to restaurants, could not do much of anything. So they bought motorcycles. Suddenly, everyone wanted to ride. New riders flooded into dealerships. Experienced riders upgraded their bikes. Sales spiked across the entire industry. Harley, Indian, and Japanese brands all benefited from the pandemic boom. Harley's response was to raise prices and cut production. The logic seemed sound. If demand is high and supply is limited, maximize profit per unit. Why build more bikes when you can charge more for fewer bikes and make the same revenue with lower costs? So they did. Model year 2021 and 2022 Harleys came with significant price increases. A bike that cost $18,000 in 2019 now costs $21,000 or more. Dealers added their own markups on top, knowing customers were desperate to buy. Production stayed deliberately constrained. Harley management saw the temporary demand spike and mistook it for permanent recovery. They thought they had finally figured out the formula: premium pricing, limited availability, strong margins. The trap was obvious to anyone paying attention. Pandemic demand would not last forever. By late 2022, it was over. Lockdowns ended. People went back to traveling, dining out, spending money on other things. The flood of new riders slowed to a trickle. Experienced riders who had already upgraded did not need another new bike. Harley was stuck with high prices and low volume. Competitors who had kept prices reasonable and maintained production capacity were able to hold market share. Harley's sales collapsed. Their response was more price increases and more production cuts. The math became absurd. Revenue looked okay on paper because each bike sold generated high profit, but unit sales kept dropping. Fewer motorcycles sold every quarter. Market share eroded further. By 2023, Harley was selling fewer motorcycles than Indian in several key markets. The company that once dominated American motorcycle sales was losing to its main domestic competitor. The pandemic bubble revealed Harley's fundamental problem. They had learned to manage decline, not compete for growth. When handed a gift, unprecedented demand, they chose short-term profit extraction over long-term market building. They could have used the boom to attract new lifetime customers with reasonable prices and great service. Instead, they gouged buyers with inflated prices and artificial scarcity. Those customers remembered. Now Harley faces 2024 and beyond with higher prices, lower volume, a shrinking dealer network, and a customer base that is older and smaller than ever. They are not shrinking their way to profitability. They are shrinking their way to irrelevance. These 10 mistakes cost Harley Davidson billions of dollars and nearly destroyed the company. But the real victims are not shareholders or executives. They are riders. If you are considering a Harley today, you are paying for every one of these decisions. Outdated engine technology, because the company stopped innovating after the Evolution engine. Markups at the dealer level, because the distribution system was designed to extract maximum profit. Premium prices for bikes that do not match the performance of cheaper competitors. The irony is brutal. The company that was saved by tariffs in 1983 cannot compete without protection in 2024. The American icon that demanded patriotic loyalty now manufactures overseas. The premium brand that charged luxury prices sits unsold on dealer lots. Harley Davidson did not fail because it was bad at building motorcycles. It failed because it stopped building motorcycles for the future. Which of these mistakes shocked you most? Leave a comment and subscribe for more truth about the motorcycle industry that nobody else will tell you.